What if the information that most people, even most financial advisors, were using to make Social Security claiming decisions was incomplete or worse, potentially misleading? Most people rely on something called a break even chart. It shows you when your total benefits will break even if you delay claiming, and that if you wait long enough, you will actually get the most out of Social Security. And that seems logical. More money out of the system, the better, right? Well, if you've seen these charts, you may have felt like something was missing, almost like it was too simple, that the answer can't be so straightforward. And here's the problem with these break even charts: they ignore how Social Security interacts with your other aspects of your financial situation, like your investment portfolio or your spending patterns. And if you have significant savings, like most people planning for a retirement income, that chart is only going to tell half the story. The other half, the one it leaves out, could be the difference in your situation between protecting your investment portfolio for retirement or unintentionally making a decision that might be suboptimal for you. So today, we're going to be walking through the full picture: what break-even charts miss, how your claiming age really affects your investments, and a framework that you can use to get clarity and make a better decision for yourself for your own retirement. My name's Joe Bogan. I am a certified financial planner, and over the past 8 years, I've worked with hundreds of people on their retirement planning. And while I am a real licensed advisor, nothing here in this video is personal advice. It is educational content meant to help you completely for free to think about some of the most important financial decisions that you will make for your retirement. So with that out of the way, how does claiming Social Security early or late affect the health of your portfolio? That's where the real confusion lies. Break-even charts have become the industry default because they're easy to understand, easy to explain, and they reduce an incredibly nuanced decision down to just one line on a graph. But that simplicity comes at a cost. They were built decades ago in an era before 401ks were mainstream and fewer people were investors. Portfolios were smaller, and retirement planning was largely about maximizing government benefits and some private pensions. And let's be real, for people with little to no savings, a break-even chart may still be a perfectly valid tool for that situation. It could encourage someone to work a bit longer for a higher lifetime income stream from Social Security if they don't have much other savings. And this could contribute immensely to their security in their retirement, especially later on down the road. But they are not great tools for investors who have saved a significant nest egg and are looking to integrate their Social Security claiming strategy as a part of their overall retirement income plan. It's a bit like navigating through a newly updated city with an old map. It shows you the roads, but not the traffic, the detours, or new developments. The break-even chart might tell you where the line crosses, but it doesn't show you the terrain you're likely to be driving through, your portfolio, your risk, your returns. And that's where most people are likely to get lost when making this decision. The problem is those charts assume that the rest of your portfolio and the rest of your money is just sitting there on the sidelines, earning basically 0%. And you need to understand the value of that money throughout your retirement. In reality, your portfolio is always moving. It's rising, it's falling. There's risks, there's opportunities. If you ignore that relationship, you risk making a Social Security choice that undermines the rest of your financial plan. To really understand why this happens, we need to take a step back and look at how Social Security and your other investments play off each other over time. It comes down to a deceptively simple concept known as the time value of money. It's kind of like the old saying, a bird in your hand is worth two in the bush. Just like that, $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow because you could be investing that money and potentially earning more with it and have more dollars in the future. Just because you get more total dollars from the Social Security system if you delay your Social Security and live long enough to get more out of the system doesn't exactly mean that you will have more money or that you'll feel the most secure and satisfied along the way to get that. Before we go into the solution to this complex picture and how we weigh all these different variables, let's talk through three major issues with the traditional wait as long as possible logic. And the last one here might completely change the way that you think about return. So starting with history, for decades, the break-even approach was the one that dominated. Neat, numerical, it's a chart, but it's quietly assuming something unrealistic, that your portfolio earns nothing while you delay claiming. In the real world, most people are invest, whether they're just sitting in a money market. Most people are actually in a 60-40 mixed portfolio, maybe more or less aggressive, and the returns are going to fluctuate. Over time, they've averaged around 5% over and above inflation. And if your investments are growing at that rate, every year that you don't take Social Security is a year that you're missing the potential for that compound growth on your investment while you're withdrawing and replacing the benefits that you're delaying with that income. The math here is only part of it. There's also a human side that matters just as much. Surveys show that people treat fixed income sources like pensions and Social Security differently than portfolioing. It feels easier to spend a deposit that's going to automatically show up anew in your bank account each month. It's compared to having to sell shares out of an investment account. So when retirees delay claiming too often, they are at risk of underspending in their healthiest years, waiting for a future benefit that they might never fully enjoy if they don't break even until much later in life. And here's the irony. Dying early after delaying feels far worse than claiming early and living too long. Consider this. You may get more utility out of that money when you're younger because you are more inclined to spend it because you can be more active and lead a different lifestyle than you might want later on down the road. And this squares with research on retiree spending patterns. There's typically a greater amount of spending that people want to and do experience in those first 5-10 years of retirement. And often that will dip later after around 75 when people typically seek a more quiet lifestyle. So while claiming Social Security may mean you miss out on a larger check later on down the road, that extra money might matter less to you at that point in your life. As you can see, there are aspects to this like spending satisfaction and spending patterns and lifestyle choices that are deeply emotional. But finally, before we go into the solution, I want you to consider this sequence of return risk chart. The risk of poor market performance early in retirement derailing your financial situation, as you can see here, is peaking right when you stop working. If you delay Social Security and pull more heavily from your investments in those first few years, a bad sequence of returns can actually do some lasting damage and drag you off course of your retirement plan. You can see here delaying retirement for this person right before the 2008 Great Financial Crisis dramatically reduce the size of his portfolio, and he will never catch up over the next 10 to 15 years because he delayed Social Security and was forced to sell his portfolio while markets were basically in a free fall. So, taking benefits early on can even act as a shock absorber or buffer against having to depend too heavily on how markets will perform and reducing the need to sell your assets at the wrong time. So, while taking Social Security can have protective effects on your portfolio and may fit into your preferred lifestyle and spending plans, there is still no one size fits all answer to what anyone should claim as far as Social Security. How do we combine all of these different aspects and pieces of information so that the impact of it becomes clear? Well, it should be clear to not rely solely on the break even charts. They tell everyone whether you have 10 million or $10 in the bank the very same simplistic answer. So, if the break even charts don't tell you the truth, what actually does? Well, what's the framework that helps me know whether claiming early or delaying is the right thing in my situation for your portfolio, for your taxes, for your lifestyle? The real goal isn't to just squeeze every last dollar from the Social Security system. The real goal is to make sure that your portfolio supports your life comfortably, confidently, and as long as you need it. And that's why I use something that we've developed. It's called the LRST framework. That stands for longevity, risk, tax, spend framework. It's not just a formula, it's a way to make a systematic decision on Social Security. There's no one size fits all answer here. Anyone promising that is simply just oversimplifying the matter. What matters here is how your personal situation fits into these key areas, such as longevity, risk, taxes, and spending. Now, if you prefer just a simple, clean answer, you don't want to go through the steps of the framework, there is a link in the description below. And if you fill out a short questionnaire, we will get back to you completely free of any charge with a 5-minute video reviewing your situation and giving you some feedback. But if you do want to learn the framework and apply it to your situation, you need to start with a rubric where each of the variables under consideration has a separate column. And there's a row underneath where you can put a score 1 to 10 across all of these variables. So first we have longevity. This is the lowest hanging fruit out there. If you are single and you are very concerned that you're not going to live very long, that is a very significant point when it comes to claiming Social Security. But it's not always a simple answer because some people are married and they might want to claim early. And so for that, if in some people also might have a younger spouse. So if you have longevity in your family, or if you and your spouse have a low life expectancy, that may be a reason to claim earlier. So we're going to rate 10 if you're very concerned you're not going to have a very long life expectancy, 1 if you are not concerned that you're going to die early. Next, we have risk. And when it comes to risk, it depends how much risk you're going to take to determine how beneficial it will be to claim Social Security early. If you have a higher risk tolerance, you're probably going to get a higher rate of return on your portfolio. And so you may have a greater benefit for claiming early because your potential returns could be higher. So when you're going through your risk tolerance and determining how much equity is in your portfolio, higher equity may push the break even date out a little longer. On the other hand, if your portfolio is extremely conservative, that might diminish the benefits of delaying your Social Security. And so you might want to claim it earlier potentially. Now, this is just one variable. So you're going to score your risk in your portfolio from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest risk tolerance with aggressive allocations, 1 being the lowest. Third, we have probably the most complicated element of this whole equation, and that's thinking about your taxes. Every household has a unique tax picture. For some, delaying Social Security will open up valuable tax windows, chances to do Roth conversions or harvest capital gains at lower levels. For others, especially those already drawing pensions, or maybe those with net worth in excess of $7 to $8 to $9 million, delaying benefits is probably not going to create a significant amount of tax efficiency in their situation. So, when it comes to the tax planning aspect of your situation, if you determine that you have significant tax planning opportunities by delaying Social Security, you're going to want to give a lower score on the 1 to 10 scale. If you determine that you have little tax planning opportunities, that favors claiming early. So, you're going to want to give yourself a higher score on the 1 of 10 scale. Lastly, I want you to consider for a spending preference, if you prefer a fixed check and not having to sell your portfolio in order to realize income for spending early in retirement, you're going to want to rate yourself higher on that 1 to 10 scale when it comes to the spending framework. If you feel like that doesn't matter to you and you're going to spend what you're going to spend regardless of where it comes, you're probably going to want to give yourself a lower score on that 1 to 10 scale because it's not going to matter as much where your income is coming from for your situation. This is where numbers are going to matter less than the psychology of the situation. You just have to be honest with yourself here. Some people feel better knowing that a fixed deposit arrives every month in their account. Others prefer flexibility of drawing from their investments. So you got to ask yourself, do you want to spend more while you're active and healthy? And then also you have to consider if you want to preserve your assets for later on down the road. There's no wrong answer here, but your comfort with these trade-offs should shape your decisions. How much would you personally value a fixed income stream hitting your bank account every month from Social Security? Rate 10 really high, rate 1 really low if you don't think that's going to make a difference for you. And yes, there's a fourth factor, and that often lurks in the background. That's trust. How confident are you in the long-term stability of the Social Security system? While most economists agree that Social Security is very unlikely to disappear, remember U.S. Treasuries, which are backed by the U.S. government, are still rated as some of the safest investments in the world. So you have to consider it in the context of that picture, even if the government debt's high. When you walk through all of these lenses, you want to look through longevity, risk, tax, spending. You're going to want to score yourself 1 to 10 on these. The more clarity you get on how these elements look in your situation and how much you value each of them, you're going to start having more clarity that you can incorporate into your decision for your Social Security claiming. There may be some other factors at play here, so it may not be quite that simple, but the process here will get you well on your way to making a thoughtful and impactful decision about what is best for your finances. The key is to use rationality to evaluate all of the different aspects that are going to be affected and not make these gut level decisions. It's not about chasing the biggest check and doing all you can to get more money out of Social Security when you're later on down the road. It's about aligning your income claiming strategy with the life you actually want to live. And that's what this framework does. It replaces that guesswork with the clarity that you're going to need. It turns anxiety into a greater sense of control. It helps you to make decisions that you will feel less likely to second guess later on down the road. So if you want to see how this framework applies to your retirement, definitely click the link in the description below. We will send you a short, personalized 5-minute video completely for free, walking you through your numbers, taking a look at your Social Security strategy, and discuss how everything comes together in your overall plan. Now you know why break-even charts just miss the point, and how Social Security timing should be a portfolio decision, not just a math problem. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.